Okay, we're going to finish up these functions that we didn't get to in class on Thursday, and we'll probably do one function per video. So the first one that we did not get to was we're going to ask for a number for a student from 0 through 3. We will read that number as a string, but we have to convert it to an integer so we can use it as a subscript. And we're going to store that in student number. And then we're going to write out the name of the student. So this is our subscript. We go to the array, and there is a name field in the array. And then I'm going to call a function called student average, and I'm going to pass in the student. And actually, this is the way I had the problem written originally, but I'm going to make a little change to it here. I'm going to make this a little more specific. I'm going to have us pass in the student grade. And I'm not getting my help here because this is commented out. So let's uncomment it. And now let's give this another try. So we'll start with the dot again, and it should come up with, it was called score. Okay? So if you remember that image that we had yesterday, this is the image that we had, and we are going to pass in, what I originally had us doing was passing in one of these. Okay, that's a struct. It's one of these, which is of type student struct. But I decided instead that I'm going to change that, and we're just going to pass in an array of integers. Okay. And then we just have, all we have to do is we have to write a simple function that will calculate the average of an array of integers. So let's flip back over and we'll write that function. Okay, now just to be clear what we're doing here, this is the array. This is one student within the array. And this is an array of integers within one student within the array. So what I'm passing here, the type of that array of integers is just array of integers. So I need to write a function that will accept an array of integers and return the average. Okay, so let's go down and scroll back to the left here a little bit. And we want to go below main. This is going to be static because we're writing a console program. And it is going to return either an int or a float. Let's have return a float. And the name of it is student average. We're going to pass in an array of integers, a one-dimensional array, and I'm just going to call this scores. So what I want to do is I want to add up all the scores in this array and divide by the number of elements in this array. So I need an integer value I'm going to call sum, set equal to 0. And then I'm going to go through and add all of those up. And I need to find out how many there are. So make a variable called count, and it's going to be scores. Did I spell scores right? Dot, I'm sorry. Yeah, scores dot length. And I'm passing in a one-dimensional array. I'm calling it scores. Doesn't matter what it was called up here. Okay? It just has to be an array of ints, which is what it is. And I want to find out how many scores are in that. In this case, we've got 5 scores, so we should get count equal to 5 after we do this. And then I want to step through every one of them. So for what I want to do is I want to add on the current score. And when I'm done, I want to return sum divided by count. Now if I do that, I'll be an integer and an integer, I'm going to get an integer return. I'd kind of like to have a float so I can get those fraction of a point in the average here. So the easy way to do this, I think, is just change this to float. And if I've got one float, I can always add integers onto a float. And so the result will be a float, and I'll be returning a float as well. So let's go ahead and let's try to run this, and let's see what happens. Okay, and I've still got that code from the prior code that we wrote, so I'm just going to answer the first two questions here, and then it's going to ask me which student do I want the average for. Okay, and we'll just pick, let's do student number 2, that would be George, and his average is 88, and it looks like getting 88.0 here, and I think that might be, let's see what George's average is. His average is, let me see, this one is 6 below 88 and 3 below, so that's 9 below, and this is 2 above and 7 above, so it is 88.0. So let's try to run this. I'm not sure if we have a formatting problem there or not. Let's go ahead and run it again, and we will pick somebody else. Let's pick student number 0, and I don't think his comes out even. Whoops, I guess that's for the last question. So 0, 97.8. So it is working correctly. If there is a decimal value there, we will get it, and so that takes care of average. And we really didn't have to know anything at all about what a student struct looks like, or what an array of student structs look like, because the only thing we're passing in up here is we're passing in, if I scroll over just a little bit, we're passing in an array of ints. So all we have to do is write a function that will handle an array of ints, and we have solved the problem. So that's the first one, and we'll look at the second problem in another video.